Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Bruno and in this video I'm going to talk about different ways of interacting with XPath. If you're using Selenium and you can't find an element through the usual locators like ID, CSS selector, class, etc., best way of finding an element is through XPath. All you need to do is to open DevTools and I'm going to show you different ways you can find and write your own XPath. So let's go with the name text box. Right click on it, inspect. You see that the element will be highlighted. You're going to right click on it, copy XPath. To make sure that the XPath you copied has a unique identifier of that element, just press Ctrl F in DevTools and paste that XPath in the search bar that opened up for you. It should state 1 of 1, which means that only one element with that locator. This is called absolute XPath. Notice here that the XPath starts from the beginning of the HTML DOM, which is HTML, and therefore can be quite a long XPath. You see HTML body, so you have your body here, then you have form, so it can be quite long. This can slow down your automation script. Okay, so we have another way of writing XPath, which is through a relative XPath to get a better performance for your test. The basic format of the relative XPath is a tag name, then we have an attribute, and we put the value of that attribute here. That's the basic format for finding a relative XPath. So let's use the username, the name again. So I'm going to right click on it. So we have an input tag and we can use the name attribute and the value username. So let's do that. Let's go with input. Then we have name equals to, copy this to make sure you have exactly the right writing, and there you go. We have 1 of 1 elements on this page, and you see that it's quite short if you compare with the absolute XPath. Let's just use another example, the reset button. We go here, we have an input and we have a class reset button. So let's do that. Let's just put class equals to, and let's copy the reset button. The value has to be exactly like it is in the HTML. And we have 1 of 1. So it makes your test run faster than if you use the absolute XPath. Another way of finding XPath is by using the method contains. We usually choose this method when the value of the attribute changes dynamically in the page. We can just use a partial text of whatever element we want. So let's go with the password text box. So there you go. We can use the attribute type, and we don't need to type the whole word password because we're using contains. So let's go with that. So it is contains, and then we are going to put a parenthesis, type, and we put the text that we have in there. And there you go. So you see that we have this input tag, and it highlights the password text box, and it says 1 of 1. You can use, for example, for the register button, and you can go, we have a type submit. You can just go with sub, for example, and it's gonna select that element for us. Alternatively, you can also find an element in the page using the AND expression, where you present 2 conditions, and both of these conditions should be true to find the element. So let's do that. We're going to go with which element? Username text box. So let's use the username text box, and we will define 2 conditions. So I'm going to define the type equals to text and the name equals to user. And I'm going to show you, if I just use the type equals to text, how what happens. Okay, so let's go with that. Type equals to, let's let's just make sure we get this right, equals to text. So if you use just this, you see that we have one of 4 elements. So it's not good enough. We're not finding the element we want. Then you can add an end expression and add another. You can add another tag attribute and value. So the attribute is name, and the value, oops, no, the value is user. We don't need that. There you go. So you see that we have one of 1. So we have type, text, name, user. If you put like texts here, for example, you'll see that we have 0 of 0, which reinforces what I'm talking about. Both of these conditions should be true to find this element with the end expression. Okay. There's also a function that can be used to find elements in the page. The function I'm talking about now is the text expression. Okay. We can use the text of an element to find that element. So let's say, I want to make sure that this text is in the page. So let's just inspect this text. You see that we have a tag label, and then you have the text. So let's use this one. So we're gonna go with label, and we're gonna do a text. And important here, to copy exactly the text that we have in here. So inspect, double click on it, and paste it in here. And you see that we have a unique identifier, and it finds exactly that element there, which is a label element. Please notice that we have a space here. You see, if I had copied from this text here and pasted in the value of this attribute, you would see that I have 0 of 0, but the text is the same. We have a space in here. You see? That's why we copy from the HTML to make sure we get the correct one. Cool. So the last one I want to talk about is if we want to find an element with XPath through the index of this element. This approach is useful when you want to specify a tag by using nothing else but the index of the element we wish to locate. You can see here that under the form, we have probably like 7 input tags. We have an input tag here. If you open this TD, you have another one, and etc., etc., etc. If I want, let's say, the second one, which is the last name, the index of this one will be 2, because it's the second input tag that we have under the tag form. So let's do that. We need to do form, and you see that's going to select the whole form here that we have developed, and we go with input. And if we put input, you see that we have 1 of 7. Okay, so it's not good enough. To make this unique and use the index to find it, we just put whatever we typed here into parentheses, and we go to the end of it, and in brackets we put the number of the index that we want, which is the last name, as I mentioned before. So we just put the index here, and you have a unique identifier for that element. Okay, so there are many other ways of using XPath, like chain path, following, preceding, parent, child, descendants, ancestors, etc. But the ones that I showed you here will definitely help you in your automation. Please ask questions, leave your feedback in the comments on how I can improve the videos. If you liked it as well, just let me know you liked it. And also I'm accepting suggestions of topics for the next videos. What do you have problems with that I can help you with? So if you have any topics that you would like me to talk about, please put in the comments. I'll see you on the next video.